Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Grace and peace to you all. I thank you for being here and for joining me. Welcome and thank you so very much for taking time out of your Sunday night. This is the time where most of us prepare to go to work the next day and all those kind of things, start a new day. But look at your family. You are here and we are gathered together. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. How are you all doing? Have you been taking care of yourselves? Have you been nourishing yourselves? Are you being good to yourself? I'm asking lots of questions right away, but I hope that you are all doing well. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. So I have to say this first things first. I saw you here, Shannon, and I'm feeling super cute in my shirt today, y'all. I got this shirt from Narc Free Living. And it says, you can't see it, but I have pictures. Believe me, I have pictures. They will be everywhere. It says prayer and therapy. And it's so appropriate for today's discussion because, we're talking about who am I after the narcissist? And we don't get to who we are after the narcissist haphazardly. I mean, we can just continue to exist like many of us did during the relationship. We just kind of meandered our way through life in that relationship. But we want to be strategic because we have a fresh revelation that this is not just emotional abuse. It's not just sexual assault. It's not just financial abuse. It's not just psychological abuse, but it is spiritual abuse too. And in all honesty, when I really think about narcissistic abuse, I really just view it as spiritual abuse because at the end of the day, the agenda of the narcissist is always to take you down from your highest faculty, which would be your spirit. So there's no other way for me to really view this thing other than through that lens. And I believe when we view it through that lens, we have a broader perspective of what it truly is, and we're able to call it out for what it is. And once you call something out for what it is, you waste no time getting to the nitty gritty of your healing, as well as discovering why did this have to happen to me? Who am I after this? And now that I have all this information about this thing, isn't it amazing? Like once you come out of your dealings with one narcissist, suddenly it's like, hold up, there are so many of these narcs everywhere. It's like, hold up, is it raining narcs? Like, what happened? Did I wake up in the twilight zone? Because you have an awareness now. You're able to see things for what they truly are. And there's no longer lying, there's no longer hiding to yourself. You just know what you know. It's like, you can't unsee what you know. And that is the beauty of your eyes being awoken. I saw that comment. It said it's like there's roaches everywhere. They're like roaches. Oh my gosh. First of all, it's like somebody turned on the lights and roaches just scatter and they run and they scamper all over the place. That's what it's like. And so, we're all able to see them for what they are because our eyes have been opened. We go through this experience where a veil is lifted. So I want to have this conversation with us, and I'm so glad that you are here with me so we can continue to learn and grow together and continue to help each other and inspire each other to move beyond narcissistic abuse. Who am I after narcissistic abuse? Who am I after the narcissist? Charlotte, I saw you said somebody needs to create a spray for the narc. You just might be the one because it's on your heart, sister. You mentioned it. Girl, you better go ahead and create that thing. Go put the patent on it. And, we're here to spray, that raggedy, dusty behind those swamp creatures. But, when we first come out of the relationship and, you know, for the most part, the narcissist does tend to be the one to do the discarding, although there are instances where there is a reverse discard. But a lot of the times we all feel denial. We experience the denial. Like we become so out of touch, we feel helpless and sometimes out of touch with reality. It is what it is. You've got to remember and keep things in perspective. And even when you begin to doubt yourself, just hold on to the truth that what you experienced is what you experience. Who they showed you that they are is who they are. A lot of the times at the very end of the relationship, that's when their true character is being highlighted. That's when they are really showing you who they are. There is no making excuses for the devil that presents itself to you at the end. That is the person. It doesn't matter if they showed up one time. That is who they authentically are, because you've been love bombed all this time. And what you don't know is behind your back, the narcissist is being true to form. The narc is narking behind your back. So the smear campaign is going on. They've been triangulating you. You just didn't know. They've been doing things that are true to their form. They've been setting up the scene for your demise. So they've just been doing what what they normally do, and you're just now getting a glimpse of it. They are who they are, and you cannot explain it away. You cannot, and it's in your best interest not to. Another thing that we feel is guilty. The narcissist tends to blame their victims or their targets for absolutely everything. And so now here you are looking at yourself and saying, dang, if I would have done this differently, maybe they would have stayed with me. The narcissist is out here projecting the failure of the relationship onto you. Well, first of all, that relationship wasn't going anywhere. The minute the narcissist knew you, the minute you stepped into their life, they knew it was going nowhere. They knew they've been here before, people. And that's something that we truly have to remember. This is not something new. This is not something, that they've never encountered. They've been here before. This is not new, but also what they're doing is they're out, they're facing people talking about you, right? And that smear campaign is painful. But you've got to, one of the best things that ever happened to me after my last relationship was my skin toughened up. Like, once that smear campaign went on, and I was in the process of learning about narcissistic abuse, I just understood that it was in my best interest to be quiet and not entertain it. And that's when I began to toughen up. Because listen, I am at the core of me, I'm tenderhearted. But once I know my truth, then my truth is my truth. That smear campaign meant nothing. And you don't allow those projections. Don't internalize it. I know it's painful. I know it's supposed to be painful anyway. But remember, greater is he who is on the inside of you. So you dig down on the inside of you for that strength. You have it. And you've got to trust that you have it. Some days it's going to be harder, but you've got to continue to dig within yourself for your own truth. A lot of times we feel shame. And, we get embarrassed because we've been with this creature. We've been with this person that doesn't honor us, that never loved us. We find out a lot of the times, if you're like me, that this person was living double, triple, quadruple lives. And it's like, hold up, really? And I'm the only one who didn't know this? And you ask yourself, how did I not know this? But then you play everything back. And even to this day, I'm like, well, it makes it's normal that I wouldn't know because it was set up for me not to know. And, and that's how it is all the time. You feel exactly, love, peace. You feel scammed. You feel embarrassed. And, sometimes people feel like they deserve this abuse already because of maybe the programming that you've had it throughout your life. So you feel like, well, I was rejected by my parents. I was abandoned by my parents. So if they didn't love me, why would I expect a romantic interest to love me? Or sometimes it's your narcissistic parents. So people feel like, well, maybe there's something about me that I just, I deserved this. No, you didn't. Some people, there's the element of anger. We get angry, and a lot of the times we get angry at ourselves. And this is the thing with the narcissistic abuse. It's designed to take you down. Not, that anger is always going to be, and all these feelings that I've mentioned, the denial, the guilt, the shame, and now the anger. These are all inward things. We're not even projecting these emotions onto the narcissist. These are things that we, the targets, end up dealing with. We're angry at ourselves. I was smarter than that. Why didn't I see the red flags? Okay, I saw the red flags, but why did I not make it, why didn't I just get out? Why did I stay as long as I did? Everybody told me, but even God spoke to me and told me to get out of this relationship, and I didn't. We get angry at ourselves. But you don't have to be angry at yourself because you didn't get in this relationship for for ill intent. You got in there to love somebody. You got in there believing that you had somebody that loved you and that you were building a relationship, that you were going somewhere. You believed in the lies of a predator, and you've got to keep things in perspective. They are predators. They know exactly what they are doing, and they calculated their moves, and they came and they did what they did to you. Direct that anger towards the fact that they are liars, they are cheaters, they are who they are. They're out here narking, and your anger is fine. Your anger is justified. All your emotions are justified, and you shouldn't be ashamed of them. You shouldn't reject them, but you should embrace that this is how I'm feeling, and allow yourself time to absorb your feelings, but don't allow them to consume you to the point where now you become, just stuck in them and can't move beyond them. And then, beyond the anger, many of us feel depressed. We feel depressed. And with depression, it's kind of like a cycle. One day you're up, the next you're down. Sometimes you're happy, some days you're sad. It's a cycle. And a lot of this is because of the heart wrenching pain that we feel that is narcissistic abuse. Many times I say this pain, for me, the only way when I first came out of that relationship or that transactionship, if you will, is that I felt like it was a soul crushing pain. It was soul crushing. I mean, it was to the very core where I questioned everything about myself. Like, how could this happen? Why did this happen? How did somebody think that I deserved this level of lies and this deceit? How did I miss it? All of those emotions that we just went over. I really, questioned everything, and I sat in that depression until I got sick and tired of it. I got sick and tired and said, no, I want answers. I need to know. But I also knew that I was dealing with a liar and there was no truth coming out of it. And so I had to now face the fact that I can't go to him for closure. I can't go to him for the truth. I don't even want to see him, because once the truth started to come out and I got to see, oh, okay, sir, this is who you are, I'm a back away, because the disrespect was insane. And I just said no. And sometimes your heart wants what your heart wants, but I thank God for common sense in that moment, because I just was able to walk away, walking away with my heart like in the gutter, really, and just my heart broken in tears. But more than it being my heart broken, it was my soul that was hurting. And this is what we got to talk about, that soul crushing pain. I don't know if I can express this to you, how I can express it to you, that when a narcissist comes into your life, it's never ever to love you, it's never to uplift or edify you, but we know that their intent is always going to be wicked, and it's never ever going to change. And when you have to recover from narcissistic abuse so that you can really walk into the fullness of who you are, and that means you've got to discover, who am I after this? Who am I? You've got to go through this with your mind. I know the last several videos that I've done have all focused on your mind, because this is just where I am right now. Your mind is so powerful. There's so many books, there's so many scriptures, there's so many teachings on the power of your mind. And if you are still, you're still dealing with the pain of the deceit, the pain of the discard and all the cycles of this relationship, I really encourage you, I implore you, please work through this through your mind. When the narcissist first assaulted you, it was in your mind. They came in and they tantalized your mind. They spoke to your mind. Your mind then effectively worked on your emotions and gave you feelings about, this is how I feel about this person. But once your feelings got involved, they affect your will. Anytime we get to like a person, we get that conversation going and we hear that, oh, possibly there's a connection here. We're making some type of mental connection that then affects our emotions and then affects our will. Are we going to be together? What are we going to do together? We start thinking forward, right? It's the same when we encounter these narcissists, but their intentions are never pure. Their intentions are never to serve you well. And this is why I call it that soul crushing pain, because it affects your mind. Your soul is made up of your mind, your emotions, and your will. Once the narc has access to your mind, They have everything that they need to hurt you. Not only to hurt you, but to totally destroy your way of thinking, the way you see yourself, the way you see other people, the way you view God, and whoever it is that you worship, whoever your faith is, whoever you believe in, whatever your faith is. They affect all of those things because they reach you at your highest faculty. They affect how you look on relationships. How many times do we see within our community people say that I can't even be in a relationship anymore because I don't trust people? Well, then who wins? Who wins? Because if I'm not mistaken, God did say, after all, it's not good for man to be alone. But now here we are saying things like, I don't trust people. But hello, who wins in that instance? It's the narcissist. We don't trust narcissists, but we trust other healthy people. We trust non narcissists because they're not pathological liars. They're not compulsive cheaters. They are not compulsively envious. They're not obsessed with being in competition with people who love them. So, this we fight in our mind. Again, there are many references throughout scripture about how your mind is a battlefield. One of my favorite books, and one book that I tend to read quite often, is Joyce Meyer's The Mind is a Battlefield. There are so many books, and I'm sure some of you have read that book. I'm sure there are many suggestions going on in these comments about books, but like, you got to be very, very careful when we go back to the very beginning of that relationship, of that transactionship, because there's nothing relational about it. You're being love bombed. And anytime you're being love bombed, you have to accept the fact that this is not true love. Somebody who loves you, somebody who is genuinely interested in you, because first of all, nobody comes into a relationship with love. From there is no love at day one because we don't know this person. We know things like love is kind. Are they being kind to you? How are they treating you? How do they talk to you? Are they respectful? Are they showing up for you? How do they honor you? How do they honor yourselves? When it comes to narcs, first of all, they don't qualify to use the word love because number one, they do not love themselves. So how can you pour from an empty vessel? Until you show me a narcissist that loves themselves genuinely, then maybe we can talk about narcs loving themselves or loving other people. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. And so we got to lose the idea that these relationships were ever made up of love. There was never an ounce of love involved. What you met was somebody who hated you, somebody who disliked you, who despised you deeply. And it's their agenda and their mission to destroy you. And that's on period. There's no discussion beyond that. Consider your own relationship. How did you feel throughout the relationship? How did you feel afterwards? You were not uplifted or edified, you were crushed. Many some of the comments that we see are just horrendous, and like, how do people do this? How do they get away with this? But in the beginning of the relationship, you share, like, you're getting to know somebody, so you're sharing your story, you're making that connection, and you're talking with somebody, and you're exchange well, narcs do more note taking than anything, but you're telling them about your life, and your challenges and your joys and your pains and everything that you've ever encountered, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And they're just taking notes, taking notes, taking notes. Why are they taking notes? So that at the right moment, when they want to devalue you during the relationship, so that they can play with your mind. You told them, oh, I don't like my eye color. Okay, well, I'm going to remind you, like in the middle of an argument, when you're feeling insecure about yourself, that, you know what? I like Pam's eye color better than yours. I prefer your sister's eye color better than yours. I don't like your curl pattern. I wish, whatever it is. Whatever it is, we all, if we're going to be honest, everybody has that one thing about them that they wish they could change. It doesn't mean that you hate yourself, but you can work on certain things. But when you open up to them, and even going forward, as you meet new people and you engage in conversation with new people, be mindful. Don't overshare, and just pace yourself, because you still are getting to know who they are. And once you, as you get an awareness of a narcissist on one level, Be mindful that there are other levels waiting for you. It's new levels, new devils, and that's how it goes. But you have to continue to remain discerning. You've got to continue to um, to be mindful that the enemy is always going to get sneakier, so that he can try to continue to take you down. They're never really excited or satisfied until you are nothing more than a shell of yourself. So they gather that information from day one so that they can become equipped. And you isn't it amazing, like, it's easy for us to kind of forget some things about a person, especially those little tiny details they may share in the very beginning, on the very first date. But you never catch a narc slip. And I've always wondered why. Why do they never forget? Why? You know why? Because they have assistance. When we say we wrestle not against flesh and blood, this is no joke. It is. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. You hear the conversation go on about how they work in tandem with one another. So if we have the monitoring spirit that watches over, that shares that information, that keeps it in the store bank, it always comes to memory at the right time. It all it's not possible for a person to remember. It's not, I don't care how smart they are. It's simply not possible for a person to remember that kind of detail that they do on a person, considering the fact that they have multiple partners. Whether they're the cerebral narc who may not be engaging sexually with people, but they have those fuel sources anyway. They have multiple sources of supply. All of them. A narcissist is a narcissist is a narcissist. There are very slight variations between them. But a person cannot. I'm sorry, you can't. How do you remember? How do they retain information on five, six people at one time? And all the fine details never crossing. How? It's not possible for the human mind. How? To know about a person. They're not taking notes. Has anyone seen them take notes about what you liked, what you did, what happened, what's your childhood injury? Nobody does, but they never forget. And it always, that was one thing that used to have me stuck, because I'd be like, but he remembered all these things about me. He was attentive to all of them. Yeah, of course. But he never meant you good by remembering any of those things. All of them he tried to use against you. And this is why, like, no matter what your truth is, no matter what you are sharing with them, get to the point where you are totally comfortable with them, completely comfortable with your truth. Nobody should be able to use your truth, your story, to harass you, to intimidate you, to make you feel less than you are, or to make you uncomfortable in your own skin. No, we own our truth. We are who we are. Yes, we've made mistakes. Yes, we're not perfect, but we're able to self reflect. We're able to hold ourselves accountable. We're able to apologize. We're able to say that, yes, I'm wrong and I need to do better. We can do those things. We can improve. We can grow. And it is important, if we are going to get to that heavenly version of ourselves, if we are going to tap into our highest and our truest potential after this experience, and be sure that we are guarding ourselves up so that we never find ourselves back in these situations, we must answer those questions. We must be willing to be naked and ashamed with ourselves first. We must be willing to be naked and vulnerable with ourselves, by ourselves. We have to face our truths. Your truth, there is nothing wrong with your truth. Your truth just is your truth. We all have ugly truths, and that's just how it is. But your truth is your truth, and be proud of it, because it is what makes you unique. It's what makes you the person that you are, and it brings the pieces of your life together in the way that God wants to use you. The narcissist will try to take your truth and use it as a weapon against you. But I want to remind you that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Especially when, especially when we know in God's word, he tells us that, what the enemy meant for evil, he'll make it for your good. So there's no way that your very story, what we know, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony, what is already in the works to be your testimony. How then is that going to be used to shame you? You see how raggedy these people, that's exactly why I call them raggedy. Again, just like their father, you see, trying to take God's plan for whatever he has for your life and bastardize it. Same way the enemy thought he could reign in the heavenlies. He can't. And I can do that to you. And you've got to change your perspective. You've got to change your thoughts. You've got to change your thought process to understand that no, this, I'm not who they say that I am. But you've got to decide who you are. Nobody can make that decision for yourself. You decide that this is who I am, and that is, and that's on period. They target your self-esteem, the way you view yourself, the way you view life and relationships, the world, everything. Everything. They target all of that to keep you bound. And it's really to impair your judgment because it's almost like, if you look at your relationship history, right? Look at your relationship history and be very objective about it. What does it look like? Have you been with healthy people, not narcissistic people, over and over again? Or did you go from the frying pan into the fire? Sometimes it's just one narc grooming you to accept the abuse of another narc, one demon passing you on to another demon, all of them just edifying their toxic and demonic agendas and kingdom, just harassing you, keeping you away from the trueness of who you are, your own identity, your own purpose, and your own assignments. And that's one of the greatest weapons, one of the greatest dangers, or the greatest assaults that the enemy can ever face, is you coming into the trueness of who you are. After this, that's why they hover you as much as they do. That's why they send flying monkeys after you. That's why they find that toxic, especially you, that grade A supply. That's why they find that toxic supply, and they just have to downgrade by default. There is no way you're going to go from a grade A supply to another grade A supply. They always downgrade. But they get that toxic supply so that it can enable you, or it enables them to, that toxic supply is going to help them continue to devalue you from a distance. They're going to continue to work on your self-esteem because you are going through the denial, the guilt, the shame, the anger, the depression, all of those emotions. And here they are happily posted up on social media, seeking validation. They're all over telling everybody about how wonderfully their relationship is going, how great life is. And you're like, hold up, am I the problem? Did I do this? Like, what's wrong with me? I mean, they moved on so quickly. They look so happy. He's marrying her, and what we were supposed to get married. We were planning a wedding. They just had a baby. Oh, hold up. She looks just like me. She drives the same car as me. All to mess with your mind. All of that is to mess with your mind, and you cannot focus on that. You got to take your eyes off of that, because again, it is there to affect your self-esteem, your view of yourself, your view of life, love, and relationships. Make you feel like I don't deserve to be loved. Make you feel like, well, maybe there's something I did that means that I deserve this. Especially if you're coming from a background where you grew up with narcissists, then this kind of just feels familiar. Like, oh, I'm crazy to expect, to think that I deserved anything better than this. Why did I think it would be any different? These are questions that they want you to ask yourself, to doubt yourself. Remember, the enemy is cunning. He's a serpent. He's an angel of light. He just transfigures to suit different situations. Just another chameleon, a belly crawling swamp creature. That's all I can say. With your you got to understand one thing about this battle for your mind. It is not sweet. It is not tender. It is violent. There's a scripture that says that the violent take it by force. And this is very true. And we can see this because of the way the enemy assaults your mind. The way this abuse, just changes the way that you see yourself. So many people, so many times you see, when we go through the comments, when we talk to one another, we see it so much. I'm sure you've seen it yourself. You've even probably felt it sometimes. The feelings of worthlessness, the feelings of shame, embarrassment. No, that is not you. That's how they feel. It's just that they've been able to get into your mind. And now you see how it ends up playing in your own emotions. Illegal thoughts, those are not yours. Those are not yours. But when it's absorbed in your mind and now it's flowing through your emotions and your will. And when it comes out your will, it's also through your mouth. Life and death is in the power of your tongue. Choose wisely. But here we are sometimes making these confessions that have nothing to do with who we are. They, they're an embarrassment to the truth about who we are. They don't deserve to come out of our mouths, but they seep out of our mouths because we've been infected. That swamp creature sprayed that nasty devil's Kool-Aid on us, y'all. And so, this what happens. But one of the greatest things that happens with narcissistic abuse, and this is really the gist of it, is it breaks your connection with God. A lot of the times, when a lot of the times when we first meet with these people, there's always something that says to you, stay away from this person. And if you're like me, I was like, nah, I kind of want what I want. And that pride creeps in, and we go and we get a new lesson, right? But in the midst of this relationship, you find that you begin to struggle. I can't pray. I don't read my Bible anymore. And eventually, we're not even going to church. We're not even playing our favorite praise and worship songs. Why? Why? We're willing to compromise in things that we would never have done before. Why? Why? Because we've let the enemy in. And it doesn't mean that the enemy has to be saying anything because we're being love bombed right now. We're enjoying everything. Everything is peaches and cream right now. It feels good. We're comfortable. It feels right. In fact, it feels too good to be true. And it's true. That's right, Angie. They're raggedy, dusty behinds. And listen, we got to keep things in perspective because if we start letting our minds go and we start calling them these, no, they are raggedy, dusty behinds. They are swamp creatures. That's who they are. Belly crawling swamp creatures, by the way. But, it breaks that connection with God. And this is one of our most important, in fact, it is the most important connection that we have. Without Him, what do we have? He sustains you. He gives you life. He gives you answers to life. He gives you direction. He leads you back to your vision, everything that you need. So without your strength and your renewal, without your focus, without your guide, who are you? Who are you? In this relationship, lost and confused, hurting, because oftentimes you've been isolated from people who love and care about you. And now all you get to hear is everything that this raggedy dusty behind wants to tell you you are, which is completely irrelevant to who you really are. One of the things then when the discard takes place or when we begin to struggle with this mindset is that sometimes even getting help is impossible. My own story. I had hit rock bottom, right? This is so for when my ex-husband left, he kind of just abandoned the kids and I just took off after work and it was like deuces. We never, heard from him. But when he left like that, and I got into survival mode, trying to keep everything afloat, and until everything got to a moment where it was finally like, okay, bills are paid, we got money, I found a flow, I'm okay, and I finally exhaled, and I realized like, dang, I've just been surviving, and I need help now because my emotions were just a mess. Because I finally had the opportunity to think about things. I was no longer worried about the kids and all of that. They were good. Now I got to deal with my own feelings, right? So somebody just goes to work one day, doesn't come home. So here I am ready to go to therapy. I found my therapist and I went and I sat down with the therapist and she began to probe and ask questions that went right back into my childhood. And so I was like, okay, we're going to talk about this. I kind of felt like maybe we can talk about it. And so I began to talk about that sexual experience or that sexual assault. And her first thing to me was like, well, what did you do to deserve that? What did you do? Because there has to be a reason. So now when I heard that, right, my mind shut down. Because how at that age, who at 4 is thinking about sex. We don't know nothing about it. We don't even want it. We don't know. So my mind shut down. I didn't reach out for therapy, period, for a long time because now I had to deal with that struggle all over again. And now I'm worthless. I'm all of this. And I go through all of the guilt, the shame, the depression, the anger, all of those things again. And so then how then now I'm dealing with this discard, this fresh discard. How am I going to get out of this funk and be able to become a mom? And not just any mom, but like a healthy, loving mom, you know? So yeah, hi Allison. Thank you for being here. How do I become a healthy, loving mom that these children deserve? And so my mind shut down. And this is what I'm saying to you. We cannot get to who we are supposed to be after all the mental abuse, all of the verbal abuse, until we truly decide, I'm sick of it. I've had enough. And I made the choice to truly begin to seek out my healing. Thank God I was able to come across community, communities like this where there was, people who were sharing my story. I was like, hold up. Did you know him? Hold on. Everything you said is what I went through. And then I got the validation that I needed that no, I'm not crazy. I'm absolutely not crazy. This thing is real. And it was, when you start getting that validation and you know that you are not crazy. Hello, you're not crazy. It's that raggedy, dusty joker that is crazy, not you. And find the right therapist, because it took me time, it took me interviewing them. Do not, your money is going to them. And I'm sorry, but I'm tight with my coins because I work hard for my coins. And so if I'm going to spend my coin, I needed to perform the way I wanted to perform. I'm not just giving it away. Interview them, sit down and talk to them, get to be sure that this is the right person for you, for your needs, somebody who is fully aware with what you are dealing with. It's one thing for them. This was my experience. I'm not going to say that they are all like this, but when I was dealing with the sexual assault, and I spoke to a therapist about that, or one that I talked to, all I got from them was like, they studied this, and there was a disconnect. But when I found one that had actually lived it and knew what it was like, hold up, I knew it. Like, we could connect. There was, she was able to empathize, and we're able to connect on a different level. When you have somebody who is not versed on emotional abuse, sometimes, your journey is going to look a little different. They may gaslight you. If you are still going there with the narcissist, then you are going to have a difficult time, because they're more than likely will side with the narc, because remember, they're a predator. You are not. They play dirty. And so, this is how we end up with being asked, like, well, what did you do to deserve this? Like, you had to do something because this person is fabulous. Remember, they're very charismatic. So you got to be sure that you take your time to really interview these people, because this is your life and your life matters. Your experiences matter. Who you are matters. You matter. And you cannot allow yourself to be defined by something that outside of yourself. One of the beauties, I think, for me, and I hope that you find beauty in this too, is being able to rediscover who I am. But not just rediscovering who I am, but actually having a voice and the authority to say, no, this is who I am, and shedding off every false label. It's kind of like, with an onion, it has all those different layers to it. There are all those different layers, but at the very center of the onion is really sweet, and it's that Eden, the Garden of Eden is described as a sweet spot. And so it's like, shedding off each one of those false layers just to get to your sweet spot. It's so beautiful and it's so worth it. Now, when you peel the onion, you got to understand that there are tears that come with it, because it's, it gets your eyes, whatever that is. But the sweet spot is so worth it. Who you truly are at your core is so worth it and valuable, that you deserve to fight for yourself. You deserve to show up for yourself. You deserve to fully engage yourself in the process. Yes, it hurts. Like, yes, it hurts. But that's part of the process. It's not always going to hurt. And if we continue, if you say to yourself, nah, this is too painful for me to go through. I'm just going to ignore this. Then we're never going to heal. Your healing is going to be held up, and you're going to be in a state of purgatory, never really fully being yourself and living a lie. Why, when you could just do the work and be who you are? Who you are is unique, who you are is valuable, who you are is important. And there is no other like you. And first of all, taking the opinions of a raggedy dusty behind it doesn't serve you well. One thing that I want to say is do not believe everything that you think and feel when you're coming out of this relationship, because you've been in a state where you're being conditioned. You're being conditioned by somebody who is serving themselves. You're being conditioned by a predator. You're being conditioned by somebody who has no authority to speak on you. They represent everything that is darkness. How dare the darkness try to comprehend the light? It cannot comprehend the light. They cannot speak on who you are. And so you cannot internalize, like, listen. I don't know if God's child made it to this live today. I was kind of hoping God's child was here today, but if God's child is here, I'm going to watch out for you. But like, listen, you can't. Darkness does not comprehend the light. And so you cannot allow that to define you. You cannot take those projections on and try to wear that. No, that's not you. That's not your mantle. Forget it. Do not believe everything that you think and you feel. And a lot of the times, these things can feel like it's familiar because maybe that's how you were raised. Maybe that's all you heard growing up. Those familiar spirits are completely illegal. They're not part of your future. They're not part of your destiny. They don't bear the truth. And you cannot speak those things into your life. Your words are important. The way you speak to yourself is important. Many, many times we talk to people that we love and we value much better than we speak to ourselves. And so I just want to encourage you that, like, y'all, we're family here. Y'all, my brothers and my sisters. So I'm just asking you, when you speak to my brother, when you speak to my sister, could you do it in love? Could you do it in kindness? Could you do it like somebody loves them? Could you do it like they're somebody's brother or sister, and that we care about you? And no, time out for just talking to yourself anyhow. They make different suggestions at you so that you can just, view yourself in the way that they see you, and don't believe the hype. Don't buy into it. Sometimes you find that cognitive dissonance sets in. And what I want to say to you is this, like, I wrote this down, so let me just read it so I don't make a mistake. Jeremiah 17:19 tells us that the heart is deceitful above all things, and it's desperately sick. Who can understand it? So when we have cognitive dissonance that plays in, remember that your heart is deceitful. There is no truth when you really absorb and you want to take in these projections. That is not you. And so you've got to be careful with what you're filtering what's filtering your thoughts. What is filtering your thoughts? What is important to you? Who is important to you? What voices are you listening to? What are you allowing yourself to absorb? What honors you? Where do you go to get your energy renewed, your strength renewed? This is not about you, falling back and being super religious. And no, time out for that. Who is nurturing your soul? Who is nurturing your spirit? Get back to basics. Get back to the core of who you are and what truly matters to you. Make that connection with yourself and your creator, whatever faith you are of. Get back to basics, and just understand that, when you're in this relationship, you are preconditioned to misunderstand yourself. You're preconditioned to misunderstand what love is, what kindness is, what goodness is. Makes you question everything. That's why we fall back and say, like, listen, I don't trust anybody, and I'm not doing these relationships anymore. Why? Love is beautiful. Love is beautiful, but love takes time. So these 3 weeks and 6 weeks, and let's move in and let's be in love and I love you. No, that is that's a And I'm not saying that these things don't happen, because I've heard stories where it happens, but those stories are the exception, not the rule. So remember that part. They're the exception and not the rule. One thing also about the narcissist is they mess with your authenticity, your authenticity and your identity through that mind game, through those mind games, through all of that devaluing, all of that toxic cycle. But you're completely up to you. They know where all your blind spots are. So part of you now is going to continue to play back those things that they've said to you, but now you've got to be sure that you're being intentional and focused on how you're going forward. What's the soundtrack of your mind? What are you thinking? What are you feeding yourself? And not only that, are you seeking wise counsel? Sometimes, you unfortunately, and it's the truth, we sometimes have to put the very voices that we love on mute. Some of our friends have to go on mute because they don't understand what's going on. Not everybody gets it. I think one of my biggest disappointments was when a friend told me, just get over it. It's just a dude. Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm thinking, oh my God, my whole soul is in the gutter. And you're telling me to get over it. I can't get over it. Like, listen, I was disappointed. And I got to the point, where I was able to really understand that she didn't get it, and I didn't hold it against her. She just didn't get it. But you got to seek wise counsel. Part of that is like, people who know what you're going through, people who can support your journey, as well as the professional help that you may need. Because coming out of this relationship, there is people who end up with PTSD, CPTSD, depending on, your what you've experienced. So you've got to continue to remember to be authentic to yourself. And there is no shame in this. There is no shame. You did not do anything wrong. Loving somebody, trying to love somebody, there's nothing wrong with that. Lying, cheating, stealing, deceiving, being conniving, there's something wrong with that now. And that's not the role you played. Always keep things in perspective. There's nothing wrong. It's crazy how you end up feeling like you're the bad person, that you did something wrong, or you did no. Let's shift the blame back to where it belongs. We always have to take a look at ourselves and say, what is it that I can do to never be in that situation? What is it about me that I need to heal? What is it about me that I need to work on? What did I learn from this situation so that I never end up there again? And those are the honest questions that we need to have with ourselves. And, again, this is why you may need to go to therapy, psychotherapy, counseling, whatever. There is no shame in that. Go ahead and do that. But above all else, guard your mind from garbage. These raggedy, dusty jokers will continue to hoover you. They will continue to send their minions after you. Those flying monkeys will come. The new supply will stalk you. The new supply will call you. They do all kinds of things. You've got to guard your mind, because once you're still in that fragile state right afterwards, and you don't want to absorb any more toxicity. It's enough that you've been through the ringer. It's enough that you've had so many cycles of love bombing and devaluing, love bombing and devaluing. They're dangling out other people's names at the wrong time. You're trying to love them. They're rejecting you. All kinds of games. Like, hello, the shenanigans is a lot. It's draining. You're right. They never leave you alone. And they don't even care. Positive attention, negative attention. The narcissist just wants your attention. And it's so annoying. One of the difficult things is when you have children with one of these creatures and you want to co-parent with them, because a lot of the times, you feel like, oh, I've got to be the bigger person, because you don't want people to judge you. You don't want to feel like, oh, because now, especially, they've gone off skipping into the sunset with somebody else, and people looking at you like you really are the problem, because look, they're happy. They're moving on. They bought a house. They got this, blah, 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 blah. Well, buying a house and having a car, that's adult things. There's nothing special about that. That's what we do as adults. We need somewhere to live. We need cars to get to point A to B. And the narcissist wants to be rewarded for that. Come on, guys. But here we are, and we want to be the bigger person in these situations, right? And so we try to co-parent. No, don't expect it. They're going to counter parent you at every cost. But one thing I really want to stress to you today is that everything that you go through, and as you try to discover who you are after narcissistic abuse, so do your children. A lot of the times, the children get left behind because our feelings, our emotions can be so overpowering, and our attention can be, so focused on our own healing, but never be too busy to check in emotionally with your children to see, where are you, child, son, daughter? Are you okay? Because it really affects our kids. And sometimes, they themselves can see. Children are smart. They can see our struggles. They can see when we're happy. They know when we're sad. So they may just play it off, but really make time to know, to focus on them and see exactly how they are doing, especially when you have kids that are going from home to home, or even if they're just not part of the narc's life. Because a lot of the times, like, listen, these narcs don't even care about their kids. It's either like, are we going to be a family? Can I get you? And if I can't get you, well, I don't want them. And so, this is what they have to go through. So don't forget to help them see who they are. A lot of the shadow work that we do, our kids can do too. We just got to keep it appropriate for them. Even as we go through therapy, let them go through therapy. Let's have family therapy together, because the sooner we get them help, the sooner the better it is for them going in the future or moving forward, because we don't want them to be in our position where they're trying to, study narcissistic mothers, study narcissistic fathers in their 30s and 40s. We want them to make right decisions about relationships, not based on, childhood injuries or childhood trauma. We really want them to be able to make great choices. And I think, this is just something that, we need to be mindful of as we continue to go forward, from this. But like I said, your mind is a battlefield. Your mind, there's a violent battle for your mind, good and bad, evil. Just remember who you are. Nobody gets to define you. You are, nobody else gets to define you outside of yourself. Be so confident in yourself, be so comfortable in yourself, that everything that is not of God, that is not of who you know that you are, that does not resonate with your soul, that does not resonate with your spirit, just rolls off, because it's so insignificant to your truths. But in order for you to get to that point, you've got to dive in and do your own work. You've now got to hold the mirror up to yourself. And sometimes, like for me, the very first time I was like, so who am I? And that's really weird when you've seen yourself in the mirror several times over and over again. But I'm looking at myself and I'm like, who am I? And I don't even have a clue who I am. Uh, Nothing stood out. It was like there was nobody home. And that was like really hard, because I just didn't know who I was. I was who I needed to be in situations. I would show up how I was expected to. But who am I? And sometimes you just got to ask yourself, who am I? And I had to sit with my feelings when I couldn't identify anything about myself. I had to sit there and say, um, how do I feel about not knowing who I am? What are these feelings? And there was a sadness. There was feeling of isolation. There was a feeling of failure. There was a feeling of wasted time. There was a feeling of loss, being lost and confused. Okay, then let's dive into each one of them. Why do I feel lost? Well, because I don't know who I am. Well, why don't you know who I am? And then, each one of those feelings, I continue to ask questions and I continue to probe until I, started getting to the core of it. One thing that I always say is like, for me, I'm a big writer and I believe in writing. Write to yourself, write to yourself at various points in your life to connect with yourself. And it's really hard. Sometimes, you get into a flow and the words start coming and you just tap into your subconscious and you're able to see things that you forgot. But then it becomes difficult to even read what you wrote, because wow, the memories start to come back and your truth is in front of you, and you start to see where the issues are. You start to see yourself. And then you're like, wow, okay. And sometimes at this, you just say, you know what, I'm going to stop. No, I'm just, Gentle reminder, continue to go forward. It's painful. Continue to go forward because you owe it to yourself. This is part of, your shadow work. It's part of your inner child healing. And it's always going to point you back to yourself. And that is why it is so worth it. It's so worth, the pain. It's so worth the discomfort. And all of that is not there as a disservice. It's really there to just help you get back to you. And that's what it's all about, because we want to be authentic. We want to be who we are. We want to walk out in our purpose. We want to be, agent. We want to be shakers and, world changers. We want to fulfill the very things that we were born to do. You want to live free. There's nothing worse than, being uncomfortable in your own skin. If you're not comfortable in your own skin, it doesn't matter if you're at home. It doesn't matter if you're in you can do anything. You can live in the most beautiful house and it's full of the finest furnishings, and your room is just a total sanctuary, peaceful with every comfort that money can afford. But you're not comfortable in your own skin. None of that means anything. And so we've got to get to that point where we're truly comfortable in our skin, and we've got to pursue that relentlessly. Oh, shameless plug, y'all. So I have a book coming out, Fearless, The Relentless Pursuit. So, once I said relentlessly, I just was like, yeah, the relentless pursuit. You've got to be fearless, and you've got to have all your passion towards this, because, listen, if you don't stand up for yourself, who will? And if not you, then who? That's like the question. If not you, then who? Who do you expect to show up for you? Nobody. But you got to say, listen, I'm worth it, and I'm going to do whatever. And I'm not stopping until I get to that sweet spot, until I get to my Eden. Don't put any more toxic thoughts in your mind. When they come in your mind, you cancel that thought immediately and you come up with something else. Whatever your affirmation is going to be, have them ready. At one point, my whole door was covered with Post-its with just affirmations. I don't have my jar next to me, but y'all know I have that jar with affirmations. And whenever I'm having a bad day, I just pick up my jar and I start to read it, and I replenish my jar only on good days, because only positive vibes can go in that jar. And when I'm having a bad day and I'm, in my feelings, or I'm, whatever is going on with me, I just pull out from that jar where I've already, put in encouraging words and I've prayed over it. And I just pull out something, and it's always appropriate. It's always appropriate, because I gotta, speak life back into myself. So never, ever, no more positive and no more toxic thoughts, and keep your mind, focused on positive things. We can't listen, there's not a single time where a toxic thought ever produced a positive outcome. If you want a positive outcome, you've got to have positive thoughts. So we got to change that. That's why I put that scripture, Philippians 4:6-8. It says the peace of God will, at the end of the scripture, it talks about the peace of God following through. And it's that peace that we all desire. Without peace, what do you have? Peace is what makes us comfortable in our own skin. Peace is what silences those crazy thoughts in our mind. Peace is what comforts or, gets rid of that inner turmoil. And that's where we can truly just be at ease within ourselves. And at that point, what matters? Nothing else matters. The voices of other people's don't matter. This is when your crown is fixed and you are reigning in all royalty. You are who you are. And part of this means that you can never stop learning. Never stop learning. And I'm not saying never stop learning about narcissistic abuse. There's going to be a time where you're like, listen, I am on overload. I can't hear about another narc. I'm done. And you'll know when the time comes for you. Never stop learning. Never stop learning about yourself. Who am I? Because after, throughout the seasons of our life, life comes to us in seasons. These seasons awaken us in different areas, and they, may cause us to shift or grow. And we always will ask, who am I now? Now that this has happened, now that I lost the job, who am I? Now that my kids have moved on, who am I? Now that my kids are in college and I'm an empty nester, who am I? Now that I have this promotion, who am I? Now that I've got a pay cut, who am I? Whatever your situation, now that I've got my dream job, who am I? Now that I am a wife, Who am I? Now that I'm a husband, who am I? We ask ourselves these things so that we can continue to grow and stay connected with our truth, and truly serve, or be a true example of who we really are, or give our authentic self and have our authentic identity at work at all times in those new seasons of our life. Because sometimes we've got to level up. I know, like, sometimes I can be petty, and I don't like to be petty, so I'm trying to perm my petty a little bit so I can be a bit on chill. But petty can't go everywhere. Petty sometimes got to be left in the old season of your life, because the new seasons of your life are calling for something more. They're calling for you to go to another level. That if that pettiness rose up into that level with you, you could be in a situation. So just always be sure that you are never stopping. You never stop to learn, or you never stop learning. Yeah, I can be, Drita. But it's not just never stop learning about yourself, never stop learning about life. And when I say never stop learning about life, what is it about life that you're passionate about? There's so many things, like, is it science? Is it nature? Is it swamp creatures? Like, I mean, like alligators, like not the narcs, but alligators, like whatever it is. Never stop learning those things. These are the things that feed us. These are the things that help us grow. These are the things that continue to engage our mind and make us happy and make us feel like we're alive. Never stop learning about the things that set your heart on fire, your purpose, your passion, your assignment. Never stop seeking your God, your creator, your faith for yourself. One of the biggest disservices people can ever do, you can ever do to yourself, is allow somebody else to define your creator for you. This is not about religion, it is about your relationship. I'm trying to tell you, they are out there in the pulpit. They are out there pimping the pulpit. Get to know your creator for yourself. The Bible is there. There are free versions of the Bible, whatever Bible you read or whatever book you read. They're free ones. Get one for yourself. Get connected to your creator. Get connected to your source so that it can edify you. For myself, it's always going to be the word of God, because that's where I find me. That's where I see me. So when I was coming out of this, like, true story, I would not know what I know if it wasn't for him. And that's why I share from this perspective, because that's where I learned the majority of all of this, from this perspective. Because like the words, it had it not been for the Lord by my side, where would I be? That is so true to who I am, because where would I be? A ship tossed without a sailor. And so just don't stop learning. Don't let life's experiences quench your fire, because then who wins? Who wins? What my sincere hope for you is that after all is said and done, after everything that you have encountered from every narcissist in your life, you arise victorious. You arise as a ferocious warrior. You arise as who God said that you are. You arise in the heavenly version of yourself. You arise as somebody who took every stone and used that as a stepping stone to overcoming, not just overcoming narcissistic abuse, but overcoming every obstacle that had ever come your way, allowing it to make you stronger, allowing it to build you up on your most holy faith, allowing it to let you know that, listen, I'm stronger than all of this. I believe in myself. I'm valuable. I'm worthwhile. I'm worth fighting for. I'm lovable. And that it would not take your desire for love out of your mouth. It would not take that taste for love out of your mouth, that you would still feel like, I deserve love and I am lovable, because you are. God is love, and so are you. And so nothing else can take that away from you. You deserve love. Don't allow these experiences to, to change how you feel. No, that's not your truth. That is absolutely not your truth. So continue to learn, continue to grow, and continue to be honest with yourself. You don't need to be honest with anybody else, but be honest with yourself and learn, and face your truth. There's nothing more rewarding at the end of the day than doing that for yourself. and just blossom. Blossom right where you are and take your time. Be intentional with what you are doing. Walk at the pace of grace. Show yourself love. Show yourself compassion. And, love the people who love you. Love the people who show up for you. Love yourself. And listen, like I said it before, like you got to talk to yourself like somebody you love, because like when I see how some of you talk to yourselves in the comments, I'd be wanting to come through the screen and be like, listen, you can't talk to my brother like that. You can't talk to my sister like that, because it's not going to serve you any good, but I get why you do it, but it's not your truth. Your words matter. How you speak to yourself matters. The relationship that you have with yourself is going to be your longest relationship. It must be your healthiest relationship, because who wants to live in a toxic shell all their life? It kind of makes us like them if we did that. It's just going to be a different level. Thank you so much, not a member of the harem. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Merci beaucoup. And just continue to be honest and true to yourself. Like, you're valuable and you're well worth the fight. You're well worth the wait. And every trial that has ever been there before you. So it's kind of what I wanted to share with you today. Absolutely, Michelle. Love wins. Love wins. I'm just looking at some of these comments. I know I haven't dove into the comments because I didn't want to lose my chain of thought. I'm really good at that. But I just want to thank you so much for being here. I see the comment I received 11 friend requests on Facebook. Like, they don't get tired. Like, listen, these guys, the way they're relentless, the way a narc pursues you relentlessly is how we need to pursue our healing. It's how we need to pursue who we want to be after the abuse, with the same kind of energy. Like, they don't give up. They don't get tired. It's like, listen, anyhow, they be drinking the devil's Kool-Aid. That's where they get all their energy from, to keep bouncing back into your life with all of these lies, all of these shenanigans. Like, yeah, so I'm just going through these. I know I should have been stopping. But like, listen, y'all, I'm so stuck I'm so stuck. I can't move beyond you guarding your mind. Your mind is so powerful. And number one, you've got to speak to yourself like somebody you love. The way you speak to yourself will affect how you feel about yourself. And as it affects how you feel about yourself, it will affect your will. And not only your will, but like your desire for life, how you pursue life, how you pursue your passion, how you show up in life. So this is why the narcissist attacks your mind first. This is why, this is why it's so soul crushing, because when you come out of this relationship, right, it's like, oh my God, it wasn't my heart that was hurt. My heart was fine. It was my soul that was in the gutter. It was that soul wrenching pain. It is that soul wrenching pain. Like, listen, I could feel, that type of pain that you can feel. And it's almost like, can I get a Band-Aid for my heart? Like, you got to put it here, because like, this is like unlike anything I've ever experienced, because it was intentional. It was an assault. It was violent. It reached your highest faculty. It started in your mind. Your mind affected your emotions and your will. Fight back from your mind. So when they try to get you to be reactive so that they can fall back and be like, I told you she was crazy. Look at him. He's everything that I said he is. No good, joker, clown, all of those things, because you're reacting. Use your mind. Your mind is powerful. You are smarter than them. We already know narcissists all follow the same playbook. They all do the same thing. And once you know their patterns, then you always win, because we can always sit back and calculate like, okay, I can expect a Hoover at some time. Okay, the holidays are coming. Valentine's is coming. It's almost my birthday. Whatever it is, they're going to Hoover you. They're going to Hoover you. Oh, okay, there's a surge in COVID. Okay, we're about to start getting phone calls and, crocodile tears. And I hope you don't get the virus. The phone call I got was like, in fact, the text I got was like, Oh, what would I do if you died from the virus? Like, you're going to continue to live your life. Hello? But that's what they do. That's what they do. We know their patterns. We know that if we issue a narcissistic injury, there's going to be narcissistic rage in their home, and there is going to be a smear campaign. We just choose not to engage because we're not adding fuel to that fire. Let it burn out on its own. But so you fight. You have the tools. The weapons of your warfare are not carnal. Your knowledge is your weapons. Your word is your weapons. Your words are your weapons. So you really are more powerful than you think. It's just that once you're in it and you allow your emotions to lead you, we feel like I can't get out of this. I'm stuck. No, you're not stuck. You're strong. You're a ferocious warrior. You can get out of this. And that's all it is. Continue to let your mind lead you. There's a reason why babies are born their head first. They come out their head first. We're supposed to come out of situations our head first. Think your way through. We don't come out our heart first. We don't come out. Sometimes they're breach, but they're the exception to the rule. We come out our head first for a reason. We come out of situations our head first. Sometimes we got to think our way through situations. We sometimes can get from one level to the next without thinking our way through and being able to articulate a plan. This is no different. You've got to think your way through this. And it starts with how you perceive yourself, how you then perceive the situations that got you to where you are. Assess even your background, your childhood, all of that make you think that you are who you are, that made you think that this was okay, that made you, whatever your reasoning is, figure that out, work through that. That's where your therapists and your counselors are great. But this is where these communities let you know I'm not alone. Because listen, we need to gather together to share, to be able to have somebody who understands where you are. And so these conversations that you're having right now are great. You are more powerful than you think. And that knowledge is indeed your weapon. So you come out with your head. Your mind is a battlefield. And that is why it is what is under attack. That is what is assaulted and insulted, really. So, this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight. So I've been here for over an hour now, and I know it's work tomorrow. So I just want to thank you so much for taking your time with me tonight. One thing that I do want to do, and I'll post it on the community tab sometime this week, is I do want to start some fireside chats where we can maybe meet on Zoom and be able to connect and just have a deeper conversation. So I'm going to start posting that on the community tab, and it will just be for a limited number of people because, we can only have like so many people at a time. But I do really want to be able to connect with you, and so we can have more conversations and just be able to see where are we and how are we coming out head first. How are we able to just really help each other on a more intimate level to deal with the effects of narcissistic abuse, because there is no way on God's green earth that a raggedy, dusty behind is going to have victory in your life. And we are here. We are here to get through this together. So you're not alone. And so I'm going to share the information about the fireside chats, and we'll be able to do this. I'll probably do it once a month or maybe twice a month. So we'll get to see. I'll share that information with you though. And and we can connect some more and continue to learn and grow together. And so I really want to thank you so much for your time. I thank the moderators. Thanks so much, Adrena, for being here. Thank you, Tanya of Just Say No to Narcs. I see everybody who has been here. I really do appreciate your time. All my beautiful friends that tuned in from Facebook, I appreciate you all for being here. For those of you that do have channels, if you just drop them in the comments, and I will pin them up later on the actual comments from the live. But thank you so much for being here, everybody. I truly do appreciate your time. I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. By all means, stay narc free, stay away from these raggedy, dusty behinds. They mean you no good. So I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Until then, you have a good night and God bless you all.